Have you ever held an avocado and wondered why it still looks perfect days after it should have gone brown? What if I told you an invisible film on your fruit, a lab-made, tasteless coating, can keep it looking fresh for weeks, and that some people are calling that miracle a potential danger? And here's where it gets even more interesting. This idea was backed in its early days by Bill Gates. Yes, Bill Gates, who gave funding to the company Apeel Sciences, saying the goal was to fight food waste around the world. But many now ask, was this just about food waste or something bigger? That's the mystery we'll explore tonight. Every year, huge amounts of fresh food are wasted worldwide. Fruits and vegetables bruise, lose moisture, turn brown, and get tossed. That waste matters. It's not just the food, but the lost water, labor, and money. Estimates of global food loss and waste run into the trillions of dollars when you add it all up. Apeel's founders set out to change that by making produce last longer after harvest, so less food would be discarded. The idea is simple: slow the fruit's interaction with oxygen and water loss, and it stays edible longer. Apeel developed an ultra-thin, plant-derived coating that's invisible, tasteless, and designed to slow that spoilage. The company built its pitch around reducing waste, helping farmers, and lowering plastic packaging. So what's actually in that invisible film? Apeel's product is largely made from plant-derived lipids, compounds like mono and diglycerides, and other plant extracts. Those are not new. Mono and diglycerides occur naturally in many foods and have long been used as emulsifiers and food additives. Apeel's formulations were developed to form a very thin barrier on the outside of fruit that slows water loss and gas exchange, essentially mimicking natural plant barriers. Apeel's early work was supported by grants that included funding from the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation aimed at reducing post-harvest waste in developing regions. This early philanthropic support helped the company develop prototypes and pilot projects. It is not the same as private ownership by Bill Gates. Later, Apeel raised venture capital and commercial partners. That nuance is important because public conversation has sometimes conflated a Gates grant with ownership or sinister influence, which is misleading. Regulatory assessments are central to this story. In the United States, Apeel submitted notices to the FDA describing the ingredients and uses of its coatings. Parts of the company's mono and diglyceride materials have been evaluated in GRAS, generally recognized as safe submissions, and agency correspondence. FDA documents show the agency reviewed materials and communications related to Apeel's ingredients. Separately, agencies in other countries and regional bodies have reviewed similar ingredients for food use. This regulatory history is why many mainstream fact-checkers and news organizations report that regulatory bodies have not declared the coatings toxic in the sense of an outright ban or widespread hazard. Some social posts have claimed that the World Health Organization said Apeel's coating is carcinogenic. That specific phrasing is misleading. WHO and its expert committees have long evaluated food additives like mono and diglycerides. Historically, these evaluations have not identified them as direct carcinogens and have noted they are commonly present in food and formed during digestion. At the same time, science evolves. Recent research into emulsifiers and additives more broadly has raised questions about whether high intake of some processed emulsifiers may be associated with certain health risks. But association does not prove causation, and those studies look at dietary patterns, not a single thin coating applied to whole fruit. In the last few years, researchers have published observational studies that linked higher dietary intake of certain emulsifiers with a slightly increased risk of some cancers in large cohort studies. Observational research can identify correlations across populations, but it cannot by itself prove that those additives caused cancer. Confounders, measurement limits, and dose differences matter. Experimental toxicology studies and regulatory reevaluations remain a key part of understanding safety. In short, there are signals being studied, reasons for more research and careful monitoring, But there is not, at present, a definitive, widely accepted conclusion that Apeel's coatings, as used on whole fruit at the levels applied, are a proven carcinogen. One of the scariest lines you'll hear in social posts is that the coating is invisible and cannot be washed off, so the toxins will always get into you. That's an emotive framing, but a simplification. The coating is designed to be very thin and palatable. Washing produce removes surface dirt and some residues, but may not completely remove a designed edible coating because it's meant to adhere and form a barrier. That doesn't mean it's toxic. If you're uncomfortable with any added food coating, you can choose untreated produce, buy organic certifications that meet your standards, or peel the skin where appropriate. Many retailers also label whether they use such treatments. Misinformation can spread fast. When a celebrity or social post repeats an old document or misinterprets a safety sheet, it can go viral and create a sense of immediate danger. Multiple reputable outlets, Reuters, AP, PolitiFact, have fact-checked viral claims about Apeel and found the claims often misrepresent the science, the regulatory record, or the involvement of public figures. The result? People become polarized. Some demand immediate bans, others shrug and defend innovation. The healthy middle is to ask for evidence and context, and to push for transparent labeling and independent studies. None of this discussion should make us forget the problem Apeel was created to address. Globally, food waste is a humanitarian, environmental, and economic problem. Reducing spoilage reduces greenhouse gas emissions, reduces pressure on freshwater resources, and helps farmers capture income instead of losing harvest to rot. Technologies that can safely lower waste deserve scrutiny, but also a fair hearing, because they sit at the intersection of food security and sustainability. That's why responsible innovation, transparent testing, and independent review matter so much. When you see an alarming claim online, run it through a quick checklist. Who published the claim? Is it a peer-reviewed study, a regulatory agency, or an anonymous social post? Does the claim conflate correlation with causation? Is it using old documents out of date? Are we talking about high laboratory exposures in animals, or tiny exposures on a piece of fruit? What did regulators actually say? Read the agency letter or the GRAS notice summary. Don't rely only on screenshots. Have multiple fact-checkers and independent scientists weighed in. Use these steps to reduce panic and demand clarity instead. Now let's dismantle some of the most common viral claims one by one, calmly, with evidence. Claim 1. Apeel is a toxic coating that causes cancer. Reality. Regulatory filings and independent fact checks show that the principal ingredients are mono and diglycerides, substances long used in food, and that agencies have not classified Apeel's marketed formulations as a direct carcinogen. However, newer epidemiological studies of emulsifiers suggest possible associations with higher cancer risk at high intake levels, meaning the scientific community is still researching long-term effects of various food additives. That's not identical to labeling Apeel a proven cancer agent. Claim 2. Bill Gates owns Apeel and is poisoning people. Reality. The Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation provided early grant funding to Apeel's founders for research into post-harvest loss in developing countries. That is different from ownership or operational control. Multiple fact checks have corrected this misinterpretation. Claim 3. You can't wash it off, so you will inevitably ingest toxins. Reality. The coating is intentionally designed to be edible and to adhere. That means washing may not remove it completely, which is by design. But edible is not the same as toxic. If you're uncomfortable, choose untreated produce, organic certified items, or peel your fruits when appropriate. Retailers and producers often disclose supply chain treatments. Some experts have encouraged more research into the long-term dietary effects of processed emulsifiers. JECFA and other WHO-linked evaluations historically did not find evidence of harm for mono and diglycerides at customary exposure levels, while modern cohort studies raise questions about high intakes of certain emulsifiers. Regulators like EFSA have reevaluated some emulsifiers and provided updated safety assessments. The scientific story is nuanced, not settled, and reasonable experts disagree about how to interpret early epidemiological signals. This is why ongoing monitoring and new studies matter. What have governments and retailers done? Many regulatory agencies reviewed appeal-related submissions or the component materials. Retailers in some regions list whether they source treated produce, and some stores choose to avoid such treatments for certain product lines, while others embrace them to reduce waste. You can find retailer statements or local food safety disclosures if you want to shop with specific preferences in mind. So what should you do? If you're worried, choose untreated or clearly labeled produce, shop local, or buy organic when it matters to you. Wash fruit as you normally would. Peel if the skin is not eaten and you want extra reassurance. Keep perspective. The amount of mono and diglycerides delivered by a thin coating on a piece of fruit is likely much smaller than processed foods that intentionally include emulsifiers as ingredients. But if you're someone trying to minimize processed food additives overall, limit processed foods as a first step. Demand transparency. Ask stores to label treatments so consumers can make informed choices. Here's where we land. Apeel was designed to solve a real problem: food waste, using plant-derived ingredient technology. Regulators have reviewed components of the products, and independent fact-checkers have found many viral claims about toxicity or direct carcinogenicity to be misleading. At the same time, newer research into emulsifiers and chronic health risks raises valid questions that science should address. The responsible reaction is not panic or blind acceptance, but a demand for transparency, more independent study, and personal choices informed by facts rather than fear. Your health is your future, and your awareness is your power.